of a Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey. It's the diary of a Jesus girl. Let the wings of the Spirit of the Lord just swirl. You are in it, but you know you're not a part of this world. And for the swine, you should never cast your pearl. Yes, it's just the diary of a Jesus girl. The diary of a Jesus girl. Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real-life issues of the committed Christian woman. This podcast will inspire you to love Jesus and impact lives like Jesus. And now it's time for your host, Crystal Day, award-winning author, speaker, and Christian coach.
So welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. And we're in a season, like I feel like we're almost near to Christmas. So I don't know. I feel excited. I like Christmas. You know, I love Christmas. I love the food. I love the festivity. I love spending time with the kids. And, I just kind of looking forward. I don't know about anybody else, but it's almost like, I look forward for see what 2021 bring. So while 2020 wasn't a bad year per se, personally for me, I know that emotionally, globally, it has been very challenging for many. You know, the last time I saw it was almost 1 million deaths from COVID, worldwide. That is just crazy. So I think I'm at the place where I'm like, okay, let's see what 2021 bring, hoping that it's far better. No tornadoes or anything, but I'm enjoying the podcast journey, to be honest. I'm enjoying having these conversations with these awesome people on a weekly basis. And of course, this week, as usual, I have some amazing people. I have an amazing young woman that is going to share her story. No, like, you know what? Let me not preempt the conversation, right? So welcome, Sashell Hall. Sashell, welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast.
Crystal, thanks for having me, and big up yourself. Thanks for having me on your prolific podcast.
Thank you. So, I love Sashell. Sashell is always, when she always, when you hear her just starting to talk, she's so, that gentle Jesus, meek and mild kind of girl. And then when she just start talking, just hear it come out. So I want to get into our conversation. I'm purposely not preempting the people for this conversation, because I don't want to, even though I know some of the story, I want to pretend like I don't know, and I want to hear it, because I feel like I interviewed a few weeks ago, Sally, a friend of mine, and as I've shared on her podcast that, even though I've heard the story so many times, every time I hear it, it's just so impactful for me. It's just always such a reminder of God's grace, and the same thing with your story. So I'm going to just start by saying, Sashell, tell us about your conversion story. How did you come to Christ? When did you come to Christ? For some of us like me, when we share our conversion story, if we talk about conversion 1.0, and then we have the real conversion 2.0, I don't know. So talk to us.
Well, let's see. So Crystal, for me, my conversion story was actually while I was going to the Women's Center. For those who don't know the Women's Center, I actually got pregnant at 15. And so when I got pregnant, when you get pregnant at 15, everybody think your life done. Of course, everybody thinks your life mash up, nothing not gonna become of you, and the statistics show that usually happens. Very few of us bounce back. And I remember just contemplating whether I'm going to have an abortion or not. And I remember one night I was sitting on my bed and I was praying. I wasn't a believer or anything, but you believe in God, but I wasn't a Christian, quote unquote. And I remember just sitting on my bed at 15 and saying to God, what should I do? Because I found out that I was pregnant at 1 month. And I was saying, God, me know the Christian people, them say if you have an abortion is murder, and I don't want to have an abortion and then I can't get pregnant when I want to get pregnant when I get older. And so I remember that night I made up my mind at 16 Lowell Avenue, Duane Park at my father's house. I sat down on that bed and I made up my mind that night and I said, I'm going to have my baby. And I said, whatever I have to go through, I'm going to go through it. And I remember just starting to go to the center. Each girl is assigned a mentor, or a counselor at the time. That's what they called it. And I had a counselor called Sashell Tucker. We're still in contact even today, many years after. And I remember she always tell me about Jesus, and she always talk about Jesus have a plan for your life. And she just always talk about this Jesus person. And even at the brink of trying to figure out how am I going to go back to high school, because I used to attend Alpha High School, and I dropped out of Alpha, not because of pregnancy, but because me I did bad girl, quote unquote. And I was actually expelled from Alpha, and I was going to another school in the interim, and then bam, after I start go to school, I get pregnant. And so I was like, when you go to the women's center, they try to reintegrate you back into the normal school system after you have your baby. And so during that time, I was like, I was saying to my counselor, boy, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to go back to school. Everybody in my family was telling my daddy, yo, you need to put out the girl, in Jamaican terms, for those who don't know. For, the
yeah, man, I can't imagine. Like, yeah.
Get them to put her out and re and whatever. And I was like, and then my godmother, thank God for my godmother, told my father, it's after the fact of hearing the story, my godmother told my father, give her another chance, give her a second chance, and, don't put her out. So my father, kept me at his house, and I'm so very grateful for that, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, so just going to the women's center, I remember I just started to get this pull to go towards God. I don't know where it come from, but I started to get this deep desire to want to know this God, to want to know Jesus Christ. I wasn't going to church, Crystal. This desire started to develop or to envelop inside of me. And I was like, I remember this girl came into the class as well, because we had regular classes at the Women's Center. And she had a book called, Getting Saved or something like that. I think I still have that book. And I bought it. And I started to talk to my baby father, because, we're still together. I was talking to my baby father about the decision and stuff like that. I feel like I want to get baptized. I feel like I want to, go into church. And I started to visit the church that my sisters and brothers they were going to at the time. And I started to visit the church. And after, it so happened that God divinely orchestrated, just looking back, I realized that God divinely orchestrated that one of my teachers that I love so much from the Women's Center attended the same church that I started to visit. And so I started going to the church. But initially, I started going to the church because I was like, when I have my baby, I want somewhere to christen her. But there was still a desire inside of me that I want to know this God. I want to change my life. And so I started to go to the church, and then the rest is history. I gave my life to God at 16. I think I was 17 at the time. That was December 24th. I believe it was 24th, 2009. I gave my life to Christ, and that was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. So that's my conversion story.
Ooh, listen, I'm ready for just dip up in your business. So I'm an alpha girl, right? So yeah, like everybody knows me, I'm always like, I'm a big alpha girl. So shout out to my alphas that are listening. So Sashell taught the truth, right? She taught the truth. She got kicked from high school. She got kicked from Alpha because she was a bad girl. Now, here's the thing, Sashell, I want you to help me out, because the truth is, I remember going to high school and there were many girls that were bad girls. Many of them get kicked. And they move on with life, and then it's almost one. You have many of them that are bitter. They're bitter at the school for kicking them out, or they just pretend that, that side of them never happened. And then when they have children, it's almost like they don't realize that sometimes if they're not conscious of breaking that generational curse, and you find that their children are following similar pattern. Now, I want you to kind of share, because we do have, younger listeners, young girls that are listening, but also older persons that are in church that are pretending that, them get saved from birth and them never have a past. I want you to tell us about that teenager life. You said it bad. What did that look like? Did you think that was stem from something? I don't know. Talk to us about that teenager life that led to you getting kicked from high school first.
Well, Crystal, this is the first time that I'm talking about it publicly. So even my friends that even know me, maybe they're going to be like, people that know me, they're going to be like, yo, you did get kicked from Alpha? Yeah, I got kicked from Alpha.
I tell you, before we came on the podcast, I tell you, every time somebody come on the podcast, I say, so the first me ever thought that story, yeah? But continue.
Yeah. It's actually the first I'm going to talk about it publicly. It's mainly like my family members that know. But I actually got kicked from Alpha in second form. So Alpha it's a family tradition. Like almost all the girls in my family on my father's side attend that school. So automatically I wanted to go to Alpha. When I was doing GSAT, I put it up on my wall. Yes, this is the school that I'm going to go to. And so
which primary school you attended?
I went to George Headley Primary School.
Excellent.
And so it was a tragedy. It was a bit of a tragedy when I got kicked. So this was how it goes. So the traditional schools, you have to be prim and proper, and you have to obey their rules and that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You can't wear earrings, you can't wear that kind of stuff.
You can't eat on the road.
Yes, and you have to be prim and proper. So homegirl got kicked because when you get more than 3 suspensions, they automatically expel you from school, which is rubbish, but that was what happened. I was fighting a lot. Every minute, me and one girl catch up, and my mouth na join church, even though I still have to work on it, because me, I gotta tell you what upon my mind. And, I got in a lot of fights at school. And that was one of the reasons why every minute I get suspension. And when I get on suspension, I go to school, go do my exam them same way. And when the grade 7 coordinator at the time, she found out that I came to school and I was still doing my exam while I was on suspension. So, I got another suspension on top of that. And then I was just angry, Crystal. I was just very angry. And when I look back, I was just very angry about, just my mother not being in my life. And, I basically grew up myself. Even though I lived with my father was always working in the country. And, I basically grew myself. So I was angry at a lot of stuff, So I think that was what came out in me just fighting. And so I get kicked. And even when I was pregnant, when I was I got into Edith Dalton James High School after I got kicked from Alpha. I was out of school for a while, and then I went to Edith Dalton James for about 2 months. Then I found out I'm pregnant. And then before I found out I'm pregnant, me and this girl was out in one big fight. Police get involved, all kind of excitement at school, And I was like, it was just an anger inside of me that, to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And that was what caused that.
Well, Sashell, like, as I, remember when we came, I said to you, listen, just speak as you're led, because, what you said of you growing up, not realizing that you were not necessarily a bad girl, right? Because 1, you must have been doing very well at school for you to pass for Alpha. That's 1. 2, you end up with a law degree. So it means you're a bright girl. So it just meant that you just needed a proper outlet to deal with all the things that were happening in your life, and you didn't find that. And as a result, you were lashing out. And because you were lashing out, you were considered, as you say, a bad girl, instead of, and our school system, I believe, has failed us in that way, that the first times we feel like, okay, as you said, you fight. All right, fighting is not good. But is there a way that we can properly, integrate, teach people about, help me, because you work with teens, so you see it all the time. I see it all the time where teachers write off certain girls, and then when I have a conversation with them, the teacher is another person, Why? Because sometimes the teenage people just need an outlet. So tell me your thoughts on that.
Yes, Crystal, I absolutely agree. When I think about it, schools should never, because first of all, when you suspend a student, the student is out of school. That in and of itself is wrong. And secondly, why expel a student? And it was very hard for me to get back into a school. I think there should be there should be an outlet. There should be another, because we need to get to the root of what is happening, of why is the person behaving that way? Why this keep happening? And I know that a lot of times, I know that you have systems in place in some schools and some teachers really try with students. But I think on a more holistic level, we should have systems in place in schools that will reintegrate and help to reform students, because at the end of the day, putting them out, kicking students out is not the way to go. And I remember, Crystal, one of the testimony from my life, one of the theme that I see running through my life, being a 28-year-old millennial woman, I see the power of a second chance. Because, Crystal, when I look at, how God...
Yeah, how your story could have turned out differently.
Yes, and Crystal, I remember when I was at the Women's Center, because I dropped out of high school twice. I dropped out of high school, I got expelled from Alpha. When I started going to the other school, I dropped out because of pregnancy. I went to the Women's Center, didn't know how I'm going to get back into a school. And then when I got back, it so happened that when it was time for me to go back into the formal education system, my counsel at the time came to me and said, Sashell, there is a private school. It has never happened in the history of the Women's Center. At this time, Crystal, I was saved. And she said, there is a private school that is offering a young woman a scholarship to attend the school. This is an upper echelon school. This is a school where rich people picnic go, and they're offering a scholarship to a young woman. And they said that you were selected, Sashell, to be one of the young women who goes to this interview. Crystal, when I went...
Listen, I run out of my seat right now, but because I have to stay upon podcast, like I just want to run up out of my seat and jump up out of my seat and just go on bad for Jesus now. Continue, sorry.
Yes, and then when I went to the interview, Crystal, I got the scholarship. So I was one of the girls who went got the scholarship. And this high school, going to this school, changed the very trajectory of my life. It was uptown environment, uptown everything. You can't tell me say God not real, and you can't tell me say God not
hey.
Because look pan the girl, where did I get her father one bag of trouble where people have them mouth pan where say put out the girl, put her out to make sure I live with man. And I told myself, me not gonna live with no man, and I could have, because him did have him house and everything, so I could have. I decided that I'm not going to do it. I decided that whatever I have to go through, I'm gonna go through it, and I'm gonna come out on the other side. And God just put him stamp of approval on it, and him just do him thing, and him just open doors. And I remember just going to that high school, and I did 8 subjects and got 7. I didn't get math. I got 7 subjects. And Crystal, from that school, I got another scholarship to go to 6th form to pursue my subjects and to pursue my CAPE examination, because I knew that I wanted to the law. And so I went on from 6th form to go to university to the law. So when I went to UTech, and I also got a scholarship to help to fund my tuition at UTech. So I see how God, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, because I ghetto, me grew up in a quote unquote ghetto. I grew up in Duane Park, Lowell Avenue, near to Sherlock Crescent. I come from ghetto, and God brought me to a high school that was mingled with, upper echelon people. And he trained me, because God knows where he's carrying you. And he will use your mistakes. He will use your mistakes and your greatest error and turn it around for his glory. And even so, Crystal, even though, all of them something there happen, all of them great things, I got a lot of academic scholarships and I get all heap of, a lot of persons invited me to talk to young people. So my public, I started to be a public speaker, quote unquote. I was going all around talking to young people and young women and empowering young women and all of that. And I woke up on another tragedy, a tragedy that almost broke me.
All right, hold on. We so because I feel like you just preach a sermon and the people them need to just. I want to ask you because you said you were pregnant, you started to feel this conviction like I need to be a part of a church, and you God just so aligned it at your favorite teacher. And that is, some people say just by chance, but we know that God aligned it at your favorite teacher attended that church, and you started to get involved in church, and you eventually surrendered your life to the Lord. And then you got this opportunity to go to this school where you say, like, you just saw life at totally different exposure, you just know, would you, and I want you to be as honest as possible, and don't give me the Christian answer, because I'm going to do the Christian answer. I want you to be real. Do you think that if you weren't a believer, that your life would have turned out? Because some people would say, I know people are listening. So, well, I know people that are not Christians and get pregnant and then bounce back. So I think she just use a Christian card because she's a Christian. And we don't do that on the, while we know who Jesus is, we're not forcing Jesus on anybody. But I want you to be very honest. Do you think that without Christ, you would be where you are now?
I wouldn't be where I am now without Christ, Crystal. And I'm not giving the churchy answer. You see, the thing about it is Jesus Christ is not about opening doors alone and giving you opportunities and that kind of vibe. There's a purpose that he has for
Hey! I'm sorry.
You're outside of Christ. I don't care how successful you think you are. I don't care how much money you think you are getting. If you're outside of Christ, you're not living any life. If you're outside of Christ, you're not walking in your purpose. Because outside of Christ, you can't find purpose. And also, Crystal, it's about becoming, your character being formed. And so it's not just about, worship Jesus. I'm going to church and God changed my life. No, it's also becoming, that character change. So some of us, we get pregnant young and, we climb the corporate ladder, but we're asleep around. Yeah. And we do a lot of things to get where we're at because I have to walk on people or, you have to do all kind of things. Some of us are itches without the B. You may be real. Mm-hmm. Some of us like that because we are big managers and I got you a lot. I grew up in the ghetto and you got pregnant or you come from nothing but you're rich. But what did you do to get there? And so Christ is what makes the difference because he cleanses us, he cleans us up, and he makes our character shines. And that was what was important for me. I remember at the Women's Center, when you leave the Women's Center, when you're leaving, you're supposed to go on a family planning method. And I said to my nurse, I said, I'm not going on no contraceptives because guess what? Is abstinence. Because going on contraceptive is just putting a band-aid over the issue. Because you can be promiscuous, you can have an issue of promiscuity, and how is contraceptive fixing that? That's why I am not for young people getting contraceptive. Teach us character. We want to know. Teach us who we are. Teach us who we are. And so that will help us to make positive choices.
Listen, Sashell, I just want to do the podcast now because I'm here just doing some praise dance. I'm just here speaking in tongues in my mind and I jump up and I'm telling her, so she came on and she's like, yes, hi. I'm telling her when she opened her mouth, listen, Sashell, the amount of truth to drop a while ago, I just literally want to come out of my seat and just, oh my God. So, hold on there. Usa. No, be extra. Well, not no, like I don't know. I guess because I grew up in the inner city. Like you, I got pregnant when I was 16, I think. Yeah. And I chose to do an abortion because I'm like, listen, I didn't see how there was another way. Like if I had a child, but for me, I believe my life would have done, you know. But even though I made that choice, you made that choice. When we met Christ, he turned our story into a glory story, something that is, as you said, I always say, like, you cannot, like me, I wonder if Sashell, I don't know, like, today I did another interview and I'm like, you can't know your purpose outside of Christ. You can't, like, no matter what them tell you. You can be passionate. You can walk in your gifts. You can be as talented. You can be rich and wealthy. But how can you know your purpose if you don't know the person who gave you purpose? But anyway,
Crystal, I just say something right there in terms of what you said, because you are my coach, right? You were the one who helped me to craft what God wants for me in this season, right? And I remember the Lord told me that he wants me to help young people he gave me my story and everything that I've went through. He want me to talk about it undilutedly. And so he said, I must talk to young people about bringing them into purpose and that kind of vibe. And I remember the Lord stopped me while I was planning it, and I said, yes, I'm going to give them personality tests and all of them stuff to help them to discover what they're good at. And you must look at what you're good at. And the Lord stopped me and he said, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. He said, buy that book. And I started to read the book. And the Lord showed me through that book that you cannot discover your purpose outside of knowing the Creator. How can somebody who created you, how can you find your purpose outside of that? And the Lord said, don't tell anybody or bring nobody to discovering no purpose without bringing them to me. So it's very important for us, even as coaches and as persons who are helping people to discover their purpose, that we're bringing them to Christ. Because outside of Christ, I am sorry, you cannot. Me not care how, even the people that we are looking up to. I mean, I say, God, but you have persons out there in the world, them are going with a bag of things and them are flow in a way them good at, And the Lord said, they are not successful. Him said, I don't define that as success. Success is being in my will. Success is being in my purpose for your life. What is my purpose for your life? And if you're not in that, I don't care how much money you make, I don't care how flashy your life look, you are not in my purpose. And at the end of the day, you have to give an account for that.
I'm sorry, like, I don't know if I have anything, but like, Sashell, I feel like I need to just end the podcast. I will do a part 2 because I don't know, I literally, like, I feel like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, my bedroom when I talk or something. Because similarly with you, in 2016, I hosted a She's Royal conference. I used to host conference, and I was doing the workshop called Discovering Your Purpose. And I remember preparing for that workshop. And in preparing for that workshop, the Lord said to me, when you go into that workshop, you ask if if there's anybody here that don't know Christ. And if there is, you have to tell the person that they can't stay here. There are other workshops they can choose, but they can't unless at that moment they're going to give their life to me. Do not allow them to stay. And I'm like, God, please, me, I begin to make nobody at all. Did it? We're me for that because like as the host of the conference, I felt like it would have been disrespectful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a young lady that was there. And I was like, oh my, and it's not even somebody who I know. So, the person would have offended or whatever. But I had to tell her, if you're not willing to give your life to the Lord right now, then, there are other workshops that are going on. I think you should join this. But for Discovering Purpose, I'm sorry, what we're going to talk about is in the context of knowing the person. And she said, it's okay. And she went to another one. I kid you not, that was 2016. In 2018, I went to an event and somebody walked up to me and was like, oh, you don't remember me? I'm like, no, man, I'm probably Instagram or someone. She said, no, I came to your conference in 2016 and I was the young lady asked to leave the workshop. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I think the girl like cuss me and done me. And she's like, I, you wouldn't have known how that impacted my life, to know that somebody was willing to stand up for the righteousness of, like, I've always had a skewed thing about Christians and think Christians are about money and whatever. And you on that day showed me that, you can have a heart for God and just want to obey him. And I want to thank you with that, like 2 years after. So that story just came to me and I'm like, just confirming everything you say. But we know so the people want hear more of your juice. So we so come back. I look like me I forgot my next thing to teach on purpose, because Purpose Driven Life is actually the book that one of the books that really impacted my life major and made me who I am right now. So tell us, you said you know without a shadow of a doubt that you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't meet Christ at that age. And of course, you did not walk out the Christian life at 16 perfectly. I'm sure you didn't. None of us did. So you said even after that, you had a experience that shake your faith to the core. Talk to us about that. Come on, know the people I want to mix up and me now make you come off a podcast without you tell me in a party.
Okay, so Crystal, you remember you asked earlier when I was sharing about my high school issue, and you were like, there are issues, there were actually issues hidden beneath that we need to get to. So I remember just getting saved and all of those excitements start to happen. You get scholarship and you get a lot of academic awards and, all of these accolades and all kind of things. So life are going good and a bag of scholarships and, everybody is applauding you. And, everybody in the church applauding you, your whole family applauding you, everybody just applauding you. And, I started to, my walk with God was on the boom. I was youth leader. I was, very involved in church and all kind of stuff. And then I started to plunge, in my journey, in my walk. I started to decline. And then I didn't understand. It's like I saw myself as a failure to the point where every time my leaders would talk to me about an issue that they see, because, our leaders can see more than what we can see. They will talk to me about an issue that they see with me, or, they're always talking to me about stuff and that kind of thing. I would filter it from a failure mindset. And so I wouldn't filter it properly. And so I started to kind of give up in my heart. Like, I wobble because me say, why, I'm walking with God and this is now becoming years and years. And, my church community was very supportive, extremely supportive in terms of just me starting to come to the church as a teen mother. And they helped me a lot in terms of my development and my growth in every facet and aspect of my life. And I realized that I started to fumble because you see, when you're walking with God for years, if those root issues are not dealt with, so those issue of your identity issue, the low self-worth, you get pregnant as a teen, but you're fighting to prove your worth to people. So you're involved in a lot of things because you want to show your worth. Oh, I got pregnant as a teenager, so yeah, mega come outside and mega show people, say yeah. And all of those stuff, those hidden issues, those identity issues were not resolved. So it was a facade. It wasn't resolved. And so God had to plunge me into a process where, it was very difficult for me. It was hard. I couldn't see it at the time, but looking back now, Crystal, I thank God for it. But I couldn't see it at the time. And my leaders were on me. They were on me about it, about, me just becoming and not transforming the way, that I should have, or that they believe that I should have. And I remember I just gave up in my heart. I was still going to church, but I gave up in my heart, and I remember just getting some hard emails from my leaders talking about the fact that, you're a sociopath and, you need to deal with those stuff and, just some hard stuff. And it was hard on me. And I was like, God, what is happening? And, I was saying to God, why is this happening to me? And, I'm like, I was a teen mother. Me start come at church. Me I do involve. I'm always at the forefront in terms of youth, and me a youth president. Me I do all kind of stuff representing my nation at a national level, at a regional level, and I'm like, why am I being picked on? And, I didn't realize at the time that God was actually pruning me for where he's bringing me to. And I remember just giving up at the time. I was like, God, I just give up. I don't know why every minute them a pick on me. Why is it that them always attack to me? And, whatever. And I remember just saying to God that I can't do this no more. And I remember God moved me from my father's house and brought me to live with, leaders that were in my church. I had to move from my house at the time for personal reasons, and God placed me to live with a couple. And even just living there, I couldn't function. They're a good couple, great people, fantastic family. I just couldn't function, Crystal, because I come from the ghetto. Them are uptown people. I don't know how to function. And I didn't realize my dysfunctionality until I went there. I was so dysfunctional. I couldn't function in a proper family setting. And I didn't realize at the time that God was actually removing the things from my past. And it was very painful. Some process you go through and it's very painful. It was so painful to the point where the family was like, listen, you can't stay with me no more. You can't live with me no more. You can't live with me no more. And I remember, I was basically put out at them house, and that in and of itself broke me as well. And I remember my pastor wife at the time, she cussed me off and she said she's sorry she ever meet me. When your parents invested so much inside of you and they don't see you, them just think say, you get a lot of investment, them spend whole heap of money inside by you, and you just And so they were very disappointed. And of course, those things broke me and I got very depressed. I was like, if the church can't help me, because my leaders got to the point where them just wipe them and them could have been no more. My pastor wife cussed me off properly. And after that, that was it. That was it for me. My heart was just out of it. I felt depressed. Everybody stopped talking to me because I wasn't living up to the standard that they think that I should live up to at the time, church standards. And so to me, Crystal, I just felt rejected. And I felt, my self-worth was crushed because, your pastor wife cuss you off. I get put out from the people them yard. I forgot about go live with my father. And, getting pulled from all of my leadership positions because I never did a fornicate. I never did I go around and I never did I do them stuff. And I was wondering, why all of this is happening. And, it was so depressing. Everything was happening at once. And I just gave up. I just gave up on my walk with God. Still I got church, but I still at the back. Until eventually, I forced myself in a particular relationship. And, because I felt so rejected and I started to have sex. And then when I start have sex, I stop God church because I say, listen, I'm going to play with Jesus Christ. I'm going to play with God. So I'm going to stop God church. And so, somebody from church reached out to me and I said, I'm going to stop seeing what I keep. And then I told her what was happening because I've always been open with my life. I don't hide stuff. And I told her what happened. And she said, no, man, come talk to pastor, whatever. Me for come tell pastor, say me start have sex after me. I give them so much trouble and my rebellious and whatever. Anyway, I came to church and I told my pastor about it. And of course, he was very disappointed. He's like, on top of everything, Sashell, you got to do this. And I remember he said to me, so if the guy come to, and of course, Crystal, I still had a heart for Jesus. I just was in a state of turmoil. I didn't understand what was happening. And I remember he said to me, so if the guy come back to you and ask you for sex, what you going to do? And in my heart, I know I never there at church. In my heart, I'm not dead. But my mouth, I say, yeah, I still love Jesus and everything, but I can't deal with what happened, right? So too much rejection and everybody I look down and I now meet up to them standards and all of those stuff. And I remember, him put me on to talk to this lady as a counselor and whatever, but because my heart wasn't there, it kept happening. I kept seeing the guy and whatever. And I told her about it. And then my pastor had a conversation with me. I said, well, Sashell, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. So right now we're just going to make you go on. Don't come to church. Stop coming to church. That kind of vibe. Just go on. Make up your mind. When you make up your mind, whatever, just I couldn't go to church. My daughter couldn't go either. And that for me, if I did tell you somebody depressed before, Crystal, imagine when I had that conversation and they said, yo, don't come back to this church. Because I told them, I'm still a struggle with this thing because, after being celibate for so long, for, over 7 years and, faithfully serving God, I found myself, Sashell Hall, the perfect girl who have all of these accolades, now in a situation where she fornicating with a man that is not even fair man and, just being put out of church because of that. And I was flat out, devastated, suicidal, everything where you could have think of, Crystal. And I remember just start run road because I say if the church can give up on me, if I was in Christ for so long and all of this thing happened, then it don't make no sense. Me go just run road until whatever, if God want to take me, because everybody was saying, God done with me and all of that. So me I expect that God go kill me because everybody write me off, lead us. I get cussed out, I get everything, I stop that church. And, I was written off. And so, can you just, I literally remember, Crystal, I felt like a dirty floor cloth, like where people wipe them foot pan. That's how I felt. And I was devastated. And I remember for months, because I grew up in that church. Got pregnant, started to go to the church, and the church basically took me as a daughter and grew me and trained me and everything, invested inside of me, invested in my life. And this happened, I felt like I spat in God's face and I was dealt a hard blow. And so I gave up. I just start run road. I start have unprotected sex. And, as I said, Crystal, I never said it before, it was people, man. So imagine me, you're having unprotected sex with somebody who has somebody else. And, it was just, I was at a place where I just never care what will happen to my life. I just never care. But something started to happen to me, Crystal. I realized that in the midst of it, God was still pursuing me. God was still pursuing me, and I couldn't believe it. I said, me, God, I get dreams, I show my things. Every time I share this a lot, and I'm not going to pretty it up. When my man yard, Crystal, when my yard, God talk to me. I remember I was with him and we were having sex. I'm not going to cover it up. I was having sex, and I remember I felt the presence of God walk in the room. I always share this experience, and I saw a vision, like I saw a picture with a child, and the child was looking through a dark tunnel, and at the end of the dark tunnel was a light. And I knew what it meant. And I was like, God, you know see what me I do? Clearly, you know see what me I do? And I realized I couldn't believe that God was still talking to me. And I had several experiences after that. And I said, God, sister, me I struggle with this thing. Me I have sex. Me don't know if I can ever stop. I start fall in love with a guy. We start officially in our relationship. God, me don't know if I can come out of this. But then I realized, when I started sharing with the lady that I was supposed to be talking to, and I was sharing it with her that God was still talking to me, but at the same time, the church still never wanted to take me back. And so I said, God, I'm confused because you still talk to me. And then I just started to follow the voice of God. I started to get confident, Crystal, and follow the voice of God. And God was still talking to me. He said, Sashell, I can clean you up. I can clean you up. Yes, the church may write you off. But him said, I had to allow that to happen. The Lord said, I allowed that to happen because your identity is not in a church. Your identity is not in your leaders. Your identity is in me. And so I have to teach you. I have to teach you by myself. So I have to have you in a season of isolation. And it was very painful, Crystal. I couldn't understand why God would allow that to happen. Crystal, and I like send me that sleep running at the church. And not thief the people the money or anything like that. Me never did I do them something like that. And I was put out of church. And God said, I allowed that to happen because I wanted you. Because if you had continued, you would have heard Matthew 7:21. Why? Because you're so caught up in leadership, you're so caught up in position, you're so caught up in doing things, and you're so caught up in wanting to please your leader. But what about wanting to please me? Nothing is wrong with wanting to please your leaders, and nothing is wrong with appreciating and loving your church family and your church community. However, it's idolatry when you put that above me. So I had to mash it up, and I had to bring it into a season of isolation because of where I'm bringing you to. And Crystal, it wasn't easy. And I must say, God had to clean me up and, just reform my perspective and reshape my mind. And he said, when your father and mother forsake you, I will never forsake you. I will take you up. I will take you up out of your blood when they leave you to die. When people say, oh, you're dead, and all of them, somebody, and the Spirit of God has left you, and you're dead, and whatever God say is okay. Take me up, and him clean me up, and him put me with another church family. And even when I was going there, I'm never sure. And God sent his word, and he confirmed, and him said, listen, everything that you're going through is positioning you for greatness. Him said every single thing, the suicide, the sex outside of marriage, everything, I'm bringing you through it. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it was devastating. Yes, it was traumatic, but I'm using it.
Listen, Sashell, I'm listening to you, and I mean, if I a few of my very close friends, they would listen to you and think a Crystal story attack, because I can relate to so much of what you have shared. I mean, it's just so interesting how similar our stories are. But you know what? Let me not preach, because I feel like you preach. If anybody has ever read my book, Living a Royal Reality, and my second book, Empowered for Such a Time as This, everything that Sashell is talking about, the idolatry, just putting people before God, just being stripped. The truth is, whether we want to, people are going to say, oh, the church should not have gave, put you out of church and all of that. And the truth is we agree. And I'm going to just give you a few minutes to share, but yeah, we agree that no leader should put anybody out of church. No leader should turn their back on people there. But at the end of the day, leaders are humans too. And not because you're a Christian, it means that you always make the right choice,
Yes.
Sometimes in our flesh, we believe that based on our preferences or based on our experience, we make and we say things that are just, and like you said, they saw you as like a
model for young people,
and it's almost like you were walking away from that, and not understanding that this is a process. But guess what? God was still using them to
accomplish his purpose.
So many of you are listening, and probably your parents have write you off. Probably, so many people have write you off. But let me tell you, the truth is, when you truly run to God, take that opportunity to run to God, he's going to just use even that for his glory. Sashell says that when she was in the bed, the scripture says, when you lay your bed in hell, I will be there. And the truth is, when you're in hell, and you mentioned you having sex, and you feel like I remember when the Lord started to convict me, and I'm having sex, and I cry every single time. I am crying, I'm crying, and the guy is like, what's wrong with you?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm like, I really don't believe I should be doing this. I really do believe that I should be seeking the Lord, serving the Lord. But it's like I wanted him, like that man, I wanted him, and I wanted God, but I couldn't have both.
Right.
I couldn't have both. And I had to, my prayer was, you know what, Lord? I love no man more than you. And the truth is, many of us are not being real with ourselves. We love the job more than we love God. We love our children more than we love God. No, most of us are never going to be real with ourselves to accept that is a truth. And I got to a point, I'm like, listen, them time they never know the word idolatry, to be honest. But I love this man more than I love God. While I'm like, Lord, help me to love you more than him. please help me to love you more than him. And when I started to love God more than him, it became a bit easier to walk away from him.
Yes.
And like you're just talking, and I want somebody that's listening. You're in prostitution, you're in lesbianism, you're in a fornicating relationship, promiscuity, you're in an abusive relationship, you're rich and you have your money and you're still unhappy and I try to find your purpose. You think you have everything that you need. You are in whatever situation you are in. God is there with you. He's out. Like the Bible tells us that he leaves the 99 and come for the one. Now, Here's what we do as human. Me have 99. The truth is, talk through, Sashell. If we have $100 silver and one drop, you go turn back and take up the $1?
No. Mm-mm.
You prefer go to the shop and say, listen, my dollar just lost a $99 I have.
Yeah.
Right? Like our human brain cannot conceive why I would have 99 and put on the 99 and say, you know what, I'm going to search it not. But the Bible tells us that that's what he does.
Yes.
Like, that's so precious.
Yes. And the thing about it, Crystal, if I may add here,
Sure.
The thing about it that we need to understand is God is after our soul. He's after our soul. So whatever he has to do to get your soul, he's going to do it. If it means killing your husband, even if this may sound hard, but God is not sentimental. If it means taking your husband, let me say it nicer. If it means taking away your child, if it means making them put you out of church, which is what happened in my situation, just to get your soul. Because he's sovereign, he's our creator, and he will do whatever it takes to get himself formed inside of us. That's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal for Christianity is not to get a bag of money. That is a benefit. It's not to build successful businesses. That's a benefit. The ultimate goal is to become like Christ.
Amen.
And whatever he has to do to get us to look like his son, so that when him come back, him can say, okay, you're coming to heaven. You going to heaven. Whatever he needs to do, get us to heaven and to get us looking like his son, because his son is the criteria. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it, Crystal. And in my situation, God said, I had to do that to save your life.
Amen. You know, so I can hear in the spirit some people listening and are like, God not going to take my husband. God not take my pitney. Why God? And you know what came to mind? So when my sister died, I think I'm not sure if I shared it on the podcast, but I remember questioning the Lord. And I said I remember questioning the Lord about it. And I was saying, look at the story of Job. God took away Job's children and but specifically your kids, because nobody wants to lose their child. Nobody wants, especially all of your children, like all of them dying at one time, you know, like we read the Bible and we see it far off, but think about it. I have one, and if you probably not go walking out the middle of the road when you're like mad, like say, can you imagine in one day him losing all of his children. And I remember I said it to a friend, and she said to me, I said to her, why would God do that so Job would be able to fulfill his purpose? What about his children's purpose? Right? And I remember she said to me, but why don't you think that his children had accomplished their purpose on earth? Right. So I'm like, but they're young. And I was like, no, but I remember just thinking about it and, just resolute in my heart to say, hold on. I was saying to the Lord, why did you take my sister? She was so young. She has a purpose. She has so much things that she could do. She had gotten so much prophecies about she traveling the world and the whole works. And you didn't allow her to fulfill that. And I remember just in my heart, resolute in my heart, just believing that the Lord was saying to me, but who says she didn't accomplish her purpose? Exactly. Not because she died at 21, it means that she didn't accomplish her purpose. And when I think about her last year, just being in the hospital and just seeing how character-wise and the little impact that she has had in that short time that she surrendered her life to the Lord through her sickness and God getting the glory, I'm like, the truth is, my purpose might look different by traveling the world, speaking or whatever, but who says her purpose? So somebody, I'm saying this to say, somebody that's listening to say, God might take your child. We're not saying that God are going to just kill your picnic just because, no, we're saying that at the end of the day, it would have been a part of his plan that you losing that child is to help you to
become like him and to
become like him. But it's not that he did not love your child. It's not that he did not love your husband. It's not that he did not love your mother or your aunt or whoever died. We're not saying that any at all. I just needed to clear it out. That's not what we're saying, because God would have had a plan for their life. But just like initially, like God, even in what Sashell thought was the worst situation ever, not being able to go to church, not being rejected by her leaders, all of that, there was purpose in it.
Yes.
So I just needed to fix that, because I know someone, especially in a religious Christian, when I go come at me, we're not saying that. Okay?
Yes. Because God is sovereign. That's the thing. You need to understand. God is sovereign. Nothing takes him by surprise. And he will use tragedy. That's why I said people need to go read Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah.
He'll use tragedy to accomplish his will inside of your life. He'll use tragedy. Look at Ruth and Orpah. Naomi's, all her sons God took them. Read the Bible.
Yeah. Her husband, her children.
All her sons died.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, Crystal, is that we're as you know, I saw this quote and I'm gonna repeat it. The quote says, "We're all Christians until it gets biblical." We're not reading our Bibles. And we think that is fairy tale we're living in. Listen, God will do anything. Purpose is ruthless. Purpose is ruthless, and God will do anything. Remember that we're the created beings, you know. God can do anything we want, you know. God can do anything we want in our life.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is he's sovereign. He can do whatever. So if him believes that to get his will formed in you, him need for make them put you out of church, or him need for make you have that miscarriage, or him need for whatever he needs to do.
Amen.
You have some couple, I don't know why this is coming to me, Crystal. I don't know why we're preached by the podcast, but
listen, I tell people all the time, hey, my podcast, it wasn't my idea, so guess what? I just allow Jesus to do his thing.
I feel like maybe there's a couple listening that is even struggling with fertility. And you don't know, God is maybe using that to make you guys get closer to him, to build that relationship. Maybe it's the first you're praying like this before.
As a couple. You are able, probably got to plan some things in your heart long time for do. And if you're a child, you wouldn't have, because the truth is many people, their children are their idol.
Yes.
Let us not preach.
Some of us are singles too, and as soon as we get the little man, we'll forget about God.
Listen now.
Yes.
Jesus.
That's why we're not married either too, because we want man.
Listen now.
So,
me give up, my done. Sashell, have a good night, and thanks for tuning in, my done.
Let's wrap up the podcast before them start with this stuff.
But wow, you know, this is an amazing conversation. You know, thank you, boy. Listen, Jesus, may I put it out in I'm putting out in. Listen, God, me need requiring to come on this podcast, because I'm all like every podcast I've ever been interviewed for, I'm talking about purpose-driven life. Like every day I get my daily word from Rick Warren. Like, and it's like what I appreciate is how God had used his message to just help me and to own and understand who am I in Christ. And obviously Sashell is sharing the same. So Lord, please bring Rick Warren on this podcast in the name of Jesus. So yes, continue.
I agree with you, sister.
But yeah, you're right. God do use his tragedy. And hear what we're saying finally. at the end of the day, God will always do things to pursue you, to run after you, tragedy, blessings, because the Bible tell us, the Bible tell us that the goodness of God, he uses the goodness of God to draw him. So there are some of us that will come to Christ because we have been blessed. Right. So for some of us are tragedy, some of us will get both blessing and tragedy, and we are going to choose. Here's the sad part. You're going to listen to this podcast and you're going to choose to say no to Jesus Christ, even after this. And that is the sad part about this. Many of you are going to choose to still not say yes to Jesus, even after this. But let's not get into the preaching mode. Sashell, I want you to fast forward. Tell us about the Sashell now. So you went to you went to university, you did law school. Fast forward to you are now coach, you are writer, you are big speaker, you are leading ministry, you have your own business, you work a big job, you just buy house, you all different kind of things, but just talk up your business. So this is where you're at now. We're probably on the podcast for a little while, but tell us, just as short as you can, how did you get to where you're at now, even after all of that?
Right.
And tell us about what you're doing now.
Right. So even in the midst of it, Crystal, as you were saying, God uses both tragedy and blessing. In the midst of it, I got a big position. I saw how God was still blessing me. Even after I got put out of church and all of those stuff, God blessed me with a big position that a lot of persons wouldn't have gotten, just leaving university. And so I started working at a financial institution, and also, got my own apartment, bought my car, just goals that I had. God helped me to accomplish it, not a man, God. And I remember Crystal just preparing to go to law school after I did my law degree. Just preparing to go to law school, and the Lord said to me, I don't want you to go to law school. And I said, God, you couldn't tell me this before I go do the law degree. You couldn't tell me that. He said, I don't want you to go to law school. I want you to go start your own business. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he said, Sashell, it's something that you've always desired to do. And you've even written it down in your journal. So I started to embark on a journey of, just obeying God in terms of just starting my business. And that's how Positioning Youth for Greatness was formed, Crystal. That's how I met Crystal, being my coach and just helping me to coin the vision that God has placed inside of me. And so I am now the founder of the PYFG brand, which comprises of the Positioning Youth for Greatness movement. We help young people, we walk them into purpose, Millennial Women Inc., and the PYFG Academy. And so we help young people to, even at the PYFG Academy, we help young people to monetize their passion, monetize their skill set. And so that's what I'm doing now, basically, and being an awesome mom.
Oh, well, all right. So I wanted to clarify, because some people probably don't know who should say should do a law degree and then should a lawyer. So I just want because I'm not going to take for granted people understand. So with law, you have to do a degree first, and then you are called to the bar for like a 2 year. And that is what really qualify you to be a lawyer. But with your law degree, you are able to still work. You're still able to do legal. Yes, you're able to do legal things. It's just that you're not able to be a practicing lawyer. So, why I'm going to share this? Because there's a young person that is listening on a claim, so no want to study law or no want to become a lawyer, and you have not spent the time to understand what the process is. Young people, think about your life practically. You need to, whatever you're going to study, you need to spend time and just do the research. Right. So I'm just adding that because I feel like to share. But Sashell, you mentioned that, you have desired this, become a lawyer from your day, and then God called you to do something else, to become an entrepreneur, to share your story, to write books, all of these things. And I know personally, initially was not an easy transition for you. I don't want people to, because a lot of times when we are not walking in purpose or we enjoy purpose, sometimes we behave like, this is what I wanted to do. And once God gave me the word, I was walking into it. No, I know I struggled like years.
But still a struggle.
Yeah, so to accept that I'm not going to do what I want to do. So
Right.
just tell us a little bit about, what got you to the point of, okay, giving up what you believe was your life dream to know, to do what you believe that God is calling you to do. And also, just share how people can connect with you as we close.
Okay, so that transition for me was a bit difficult because I wasn't sure when God gave me the word that I want, and that came through a prophetic word actually, and also I had desires and I had journalized it, but nobody knew. So God brought it through a prophetic word that, and it was during that time that I was going through trauma and tragedy, and the Lord was bringing me back to church and bringing me back to the fold, and the Lord sent a prophetic word and said, this is what I want you to do. I'm not done with you, da 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 da. And then I started to inquire, God, what is it that you want? I don't understand what you're talking about. How do I build a business? How do I, what are you talking about? And then Crystal, God had to give me another prophetic word to connect with you, because where I'm coming from, how I was churched, I'm going to use that term, how I was churched. I don't just go to any and anybody, and I don't make any and anybody lay them hand on me. So God had to give me, because I was a bit skeptical about what you were doing. I'm going to be honest.
Yes. Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah. And, God had to give me a word to say. And I remember you were there when I got that word, that I need to connect with you in order to unearth what it is that he has placed inside of me. And I'm really and truly grateful for you and your work and what you're doing, because I wouldn't have been where I am now. It's not easy. The transition is not easy, because you have to consistently be hearing from God as to what it is that he wants you to do, because he was the one who created you. He knows how he wired you. I didn't know that this is so easy. This comes easy for me now, because in terms of what I'm doing or what God has called me to do, because he wired me like this. I love to talk. So that's why I always wanted to be a lawyer, but not because you love to talk mean you're going to be a lawyer. Maybe you're going to be a speaker for God. He's going to use your mouth. So I didn't know that God would have called me to quote unquote ministry like this. I've always gotten a prophetic word about, what God has called me to do, but I didn't know it would look like this. And so I'm absolutely grateful to him. And I'm also grateful for the process, even though it was hard. And, and hope you can connect with me. Please to follow me at Sashell Catalyst on Instagram. You can follow, for all the young people that's listening, you can follow Position Youth for Greatness on Instagram at Position Youth for Greatness, and you can just connect.
All right, so let me just interject here regarding with Sashell now. When, as Sashell mentioned, she's doing, and here's what I'm going to shout her out on. I have connected with quite a few people on my journey as a coach. And one thing I love, this is why I've always enjoyed working with her and I'll always reach out to her, is that she's a woman that moves. When God speaks, she moves. Many persons, and here's the thing with obedience, while sometimes how do I put it? So while sometimes we want to desire what God desire, we want to passionately do what God called us to do, sometimes we just don't reach there yet. So the truth is, for many of the things that I've done is not necessarily out of passion initially, it was just out of obedience. So like leaving my 9-to-5 job, after 3 years, I'm not going to tell you a lie. Every now and then, I'm looking at the paper figure, say, I wonder if I can apply for a job here. Because I can't do the both of them at the same time. I'm being honest. And here's why. Because the truth is, while I did desire to become an entrepreneur, I struggle with the whole insecurity. Can I do this? Limited mindset. So I'm just entrepreneurship hard. I'm not going to tell you a lie. With a 9-to-5 job, I found very easy. You do the work, you go home, you enjoy it. You pay. But sometimes I've learned it's just trust, just obey. And this is what I like with Sashell, and love with her, even though she wasn't where she like, me not go completely cross off law school. I'm saying that, Lord, I'm going to obey. And Sashell, in a year or about a year and a half or so, I mean, this girl kept a conference like a few months after we have met. And the conference was amazing. Then she ended up going to another parish with the conference. Then this girl gone to Trinidad. I carried a conference, gone to Trinidad. And the conference would have, if it wasn't for COVID, but she went there and she went into to deal with the girls home and went to Trinidad by faith, ministering to people. Then she hosted another event. And I'm like, listen, like people would see Sashell little year and a half success and I'll be like, you know, she up and coming, but two things she has done. One, she has put in the work. Two, she has done everything that she has done in excellence. So she actually invests, she pay her money, like if I say, listen, my girl, I need to go do over a new egg shot. Like she not hesitate. Okay, Crystal, my girl, my girl, and she invests. And thirdly, she obeyed. So she obeyed. She invests, which is showing her faith by her works, and also she just do it. And many of you are listening are like, what? So I must give her that, and just finally, like for me, people say many persons were skeptical. I mean, when I came out as a coach, especially as a Christian coach, telling people I'm going to help them to build their business and brands God's way. And I'm like, God, me not see this happening, me not know what is this, but me just going to do it, And I remember, I mean, Sashell, you would understand the amount. I mean, people throw word upon me, like Christian people throw word upon me on Facebook. People, right. Me and them talk good. Our meeting, me and them talk good. And then I see one post. I know them a drop word at me or, and I'm like, you know what, God? Listen, at the end of the day, and this is why
it validates what you're doing, Crystal. It validates what you're doing, because if you're not getting the fight, then
I never feel like validation. I feel like attack. But yeah, at the end of the day, I've just learned to just trust God. And I think with Eva Sashell testimony of, I remember she sharing, I said, this is the power of a second chance. And I say second chance because at every junction of it, God was saying that, yes, you made this mistake. Yes, you have done this. But if you just do it my way, here's how it can work out differently. And I just want to say thank you for coming on to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. Thank you for your honesty, your realness. Thank you for your preaching. Thank you for your obedience. Thank you for just being a positive influence. Thank you for affirming me and a mad man. Because sometimes I wonder I'm crazy when I tell people, and I just pray for like a double portion of, God's grace and his mercy, but a double portion of wisdom and his favor as you go into whatever your next season will look like. Yeah. However that look, I pray, and believe me, like I tell you off air that, listen, the entrepreneurship journey, especially, I'm not going to say not in Jamaica because I don't know about it outside, but I can say in Jamaica, Christian kingdom entrepreneurship, there is just a lot of work, a lot of fight, a lot of just lack of support.
Because they don't want to invest. And I don't know, Crystal, I'm glad you went back there because I felt led to say this. I knew that God wanted me to do this because he gave me his word, to the point where he even did threaten me. So I had to run with it. But I invested my money, even monies that I never have, because if God gave you a word, he's going to give you the provision. And so I remember I was kind of trying to save to purchase a house. May I try save? And I had to use that money to keep conferences where God told me to have, to the point where Crystal and money. And then the Lord told me it's time to buy a house. But I said, God, me use up all of the money, pay Crystal, pay coaching, keep conferences. And I had to do all of that out of my pocket. I don't have no money to buy a house. And Crystal, to cut the story short, God gave me a 4-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms, big yard space. And trust me, I never have no money. But you know why God opened that door? Because I was obedient to his will. I was obedient.
Shandai.
You're obedient and you invest. If God tell you to do something, go and go invest your money in building yourself. You're showing God that this is my faith and he will increase it. Some things that I did, I don't know how we do it. I don't know how it is. Just the faith. It's just God multiplying the seed. And I'm not gonna say that it's not easy. It's not easy, but you have to just trust God. Because in his word, he says that he gives you the power to create wealth. And so we can do it. We can do it. So don't be stingy. Spend your money, go get the coaching where you need, invest, go do a course in what God tells you you're supposed to do. Stop being stagnant. He will bless you as you go along and he will make it clear as you go along. I was not clear. Even when Crystal did clear, me never clear. Me never clear. I'm still sometime I do clear.
Yeah.
Steps of obedience and clarity will come. So I just really wanted to share that, Crystal.
Yeah. So we are going to close off with the Diary of a Jesus Girl for this week. I don't know about anybody, but when I get a full house, like when I get sermon, when I get mix up, when I get laughter. When I get like this was really drape up. You get drape up, you know. I believe that if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening, it means that God is saying that there's more in you. He has placed more. And yes, even Crystal that is supposedly doing so much, there's still so much more in me. Right? There's still so much more in Sashell, in all that. And more is not always doing enough things. Sometimes more means depth. It means, as Sashell says, spending more time in the word so that my character is being built for where God is taking me.
Yes.
The Holy Spirit, bring it back because I wanted to share. You know, it's funny because I spent all my life wanting to become a lawyer. And all my life I would ask my parents, like all my life I wanted to become a lawyer because I love chat. And I figured because I love chat, I should become a lawyer. And I remember I decided to kind of change from I don't want to become a lawyer anymore. I'm going to become a politician and I want to become a pilot and then become a chef. And I remember just settling for business because it was the easy route. But, you know, when I came into Christendom, the Lord showed me how all the things that I had desired to do, like law, because I love chat, I'm doing that as a speaker, as Sashell says. You know, I wanted to become a pilot because me used to dream, say, we just want to travel all over the world. Girl, I'm traveling all over the world. I'm still waiting to reach Europe, but I'm traveling all over the world. You know, like Eve, I want to become a politician because I wanted to really help people. That's my desire. Like, you know, I'm from the inner city. I want to do politics so I can help others. And through coaching and through writing books, I am impacting and helping people just in a different way. So I just want somebody to know that it's okay to let go of whatever you felt like, you know, this is what God wants you to do. And if you really just enjoy, well, the process is not easy to enjoy, but enjoy knowing that he's a good father and he who started a good work in you will complete it.
Yeah.
Sashell, any final words?
I just want to echo what you said, Crystal. I want to thank everyone who is listening. And Crystal, continue to do what you do in your podcast. Has draped me up, boxed me up, encouraged me. You know, it's very encouraging what you're doing. You know, not a lot of persons are doing this. As you said it some time ago that we need more Christian people in the space. Listen to me. God wants to, I don't know why God elongating this podcast, but listen, God wants to raise up some of us as influencers.
Hallelujah.
Listen, God wants to raise up some of us. You see, like how some of us, I don't want to call anybody name, but you know some local influencers that everybody follow and everybody look up to and everybody is them. They, you know, these people are my role model, these ladies. And we know the ladies them. You know the ladies them. God wants to raise up some of us because some of those women are not role models for young people. I am sorry. Men a business how much I want to follow them and love them and whatever. They are not role models for us.
Especially, guess what? They can be role models to the people of the world. But here's where it gets tricky. As a woman of God or a young lady that desires to please God, the truth is if you are not following godly role models, you find yourself compromising your faith more than you would want to admit.
Yes.
And this is why I tell people, always telling believers, like, be like nothing to me like my faith in Jesus Christ. Any stage I can't go say Jesus, nobody bring me on it, because the truth is, like, the universe didn't do anything for me. Jesus went on the cross for me. And if that means I will not be invited on another television show, if that means I will not be invited on another podcast, if not, that's fine. Like, it is Jesus Christ, and that's it.
Yeah. And Crystal, that's why I really laud what you're doing. And that's why we need more persons to step out, and more women, because I know you work with a lot of women, more women to come out, because God wants to raise us up in this generation so that young to us as role models.
Amen.
So some of us, you need to build your following on social media. You need to do this age thing. It's a God thing. It's a God thing. Some of us need to step up how we carry ourselves, because God wants to use us as a role model for other youth. God don't want to use them other people there. But them like them because them dress good, them look good, them saying the right stuff, but we in the kingdom look pop down and everything and what. That's why God wants to raise us up. So just continue doing what you're doing, Crystal, and go to the next step.
Thank you. So that's it. We're done chat. Listen. We know so we talk long today, but please, may I beg you to leave a nice review. If you do have something good to say, don't bother leaving a review at all. But leave a review. Please share. I'm begging you to just share this podcast with somebody. Share it with your co-workers. Share it with the non-Christians. And I know, say, like, I love when the non-Christian they message me. Them say, yes, Crystal, I finally get to hear Christians talk real, because I'm tired for the fake Christians. I mean, it's amazing, the messages that I get even on Instagram, a young lady that tell me, she rededicated her life back to the Lord because of the podcast.
Yes,
because so I know that God is doing something. Not me. It's not me. It's not my idea. It's not my podcast. It's Jesus' podcast. Me tell you the truth. And I'm even hoping that if Crystal move on, the Lord will add the button to somebody else. And if he decides to stop podcast or use me another way, I feel deal. But I hope that you will come on next week, because God not tell me to stop it yet. So I want to just come next week, hear another amazing episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. Thank you, Sashell. I leave her links, follow her, shout her up, message her privately. I say, Sashell, I listen to you on the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. When our book come out, support her. When COVID move on and conferences, I keep support, because we know that at the end of the day, all of this is just for God's glory. God bless you.
Diary of a Jesus Girl. Jesus girl, hey, it's the Diary of a Jesus Girl.